Hi, everyone. Welcome to the MAAP Community Call. I am so glad all of you are here because my friend Claire Chu is here. She is a doctor of, right, Claire?
No, 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 no. I'm just Claire. Just
You're
Claire.
just okay, so I
Claire.
won't go there. But she wrote a great book called Promises to My Pet, which goes hand in hand with the MAP community and the MAP plan. So I thought having Claire here instead of hearing me talk all the time about something that we could really branch out. Claire has a book that we'll put in the show notes that you can ask her to send you. And I'm sure you'll just have to pay a small price and a postage or whatever, so Claire can get it to you. But it goes hand in hand with the MAP program in the MAP document. So it really is very important. So before I go any further, I'm Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law Mediation, this wonderful MAP community, and of course the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. And I'm here tonight to help everyone. Hey, Jan, how are you? I hope Tonka's doing well. So we are here with Claire Chu of Promises to My Pet, and she and I spoke at length about how we are really kindred spirits. We're sort of symbiotic because we're thinking about helping people who have pets care for their pets short and long term. It's like my mantra. So I have finally found my sister from another mother who is doing the same thing I'm doing, so that I have been validated, and she has been validated because both
Yes.
of us thought we were the only ones, Don Quixote, poking at the windmill, but rather we are helping pet owners find a way to make a plan. So Claire, tell our people, because it's 6:31 and I love to give everybody the full half hour that
Okay.
will be what exactly you do and how they can avail themselves of the things that you've provided. Hi, Susan. How are you?
So I'm Claire. I have been in the pet world since 2003. I fell down the rabbit hole when my first soul dog passed away, and at that time I was in the world of advertising, had nothing to do with any of this at all. And I was bereft, and I was that crazy person who couldn't get out of bed. And I was like, what is going on? Why am I feeling this way? So, long story short, I went back, got my master's in psychology, and decided to, because there was a lack of support at the time, I got into the grief world of coaching and got into helping humans, and then ultimately segueing to helping pet caregivers and pet lovers deal with the ultimate anticipatory loss or the loss of their pet, because 20 years ago there was nothing around that was available to all of us. And along that way, I did a lot of lunch and learns, met a lot of people in the veterinary industries. I'm a big proponent of planning for the end of life because I had no idea. It was my first dog. She was great, and then she wasn't. And then she got really sick, and then she became ill, and then she was gone poof in 3 months. And I didn't have any planning for it. So, fast forward to right before COVID, I started working for a bunch of emergency 24/7 specialty hospitals as a veterinary wellness consultant. My background, I'm a certified compassion fatigue specialist. I'm a certified grief coach. I've done many bereavement groups for humans and animals. And so, best suited with all that stress with COVID and everything, and in the veterinary world, they asked if I would come and do some coaching on the stressful nature of caring for the people who care for the animals. And so I started consulting for members of the hospital. So nurses, technicians, the front staff, DVMs. And then in my private practice, I still continue. I consulted with people who have lost their pets who would come to me. And then I realized there was a gap. There was this weird hole, void, if you will, between the people who never thought their pets were going to get sick and they got sick, who arrived in the ER, who didn't ultimately know what to expect in that catastrophic, devastating situation, didn't plan, and then ultimately have to figure out in real time, oh, wait, my pet's sick and it's going to cost this much. Oh, wait, my pet's sick and my credit card is it got denied. And oh, I don't have the funds to take care of my pet. Or I never thought about this. Or what do you mean I have to be home all the time to take care of my pet now because they need me? I work a full-time job. Or, and then I hear, you know, from the team members, so and so wanted to um just leave their dog at the hospital because we can't care for her anymore, or we're moving, or this or that or that. So it made me really think of, and all of you have heard about through COVID how many millions of pets got adopted and they got released back into where they came from because everybody's back to work now. It's no longer convenient. And so we have, let me not start on the whole shelter conversation, but it made me really think about we owe it to the animals. We
To make
owe
a plan? Yeah.
it to our animals, our pets, but they're my soul family members to really plan for the future. And I think that we don't really have a guide. And, hate to say it, no one really plans for the future when it comes to it's so great to see Fluffy and Fido and they're cute and we love them to pieces and but we don't make any plans. So when I met Deborah and I'm like, MAP, I'm like, oh my God, we need that. Um, and then I shared with her I created Promises to My Pet. It's a piece of my heart. I modeled it after, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's the Five Wishes. Have you guys heard of the Five Wishes?
Don
It's
Luis.
right. It's the Human Advanced Healthcare Directive, right? I don't DNR, I don't want this, I want that. Well, our animals can't speak. And so even as much as I think I know my dog or my cat, how do I really truly know what they want or what they don't want? And then part of this is my experience with the hospital. Like I was just on a call with somebody who works in oncology last week, and they're telling me the ins and outs of, we think maybe the key this patient is beyond chemotherapy. However, the parents, the caregivers, the owners still want that, but the dog doesn't. What do we say? How can we help prep them for it? Or that they had no idea when they signed up for this that they came with other ailments as well. So on top of coming to see us, we don't know their life at home is going to be way different when they get the dog or the cat home. It's going to be 24-hour care. It's hospice basically. And our clients are not prepared for this. They're like, Claire, we only have 20 minutes in an appointment to tell them what's going on. We can't go into detail. If you have to have chemo and you have Cushing's and you have these, you need nutritional care. You also need financial stability. There's no home health aid care guide. If you're a human, you can hire somebody who's gonna come. You can't call Rovers and go, hi, my dog's really sick, can you come over while I'm at work and stay for like the next 8 hours while I'm at work? And people might not have the funds for that or the means to do it. So there you go. This
Yes,
is
Promises to My Pet. I love it because under the MAP plan, addressing the needs of your pet, we've talked often about making the plan for your pet end of life. And I love that you're touching upon that because you really need to decide what would you like the end of life for your dog to be? Would you like extraordinary means to be done? Would you not? Are you leaving enough money for extraordinary means? And as you've pointed out, do you have the time to provide extraordinary means and what it might lead to as far as aftercare? Do you have that opportunity? There are so many things that you've brought up that really I touched upon in the MAP plan, but have never delved into. And the one thing that I think you do that really is something that I definitely have not delved into as much, and that's why we're going to collaborate, is dealing with the grief because everyone here. So Jan has Tonka, and Kalina has our beagles, and Susan has Maggie. And I know these dogs. I know them and Cat. Sorry, Stephanie. Yoda. Sorry. I know these animals, and I know that all of these people and everyone who listens, who I don't know your dog's name, or I do, and you're not here tonight. Uh, all of these animals are going to create a huge hole in everyone's heart when they transition. And so you've created really a place where people can go and grieve and be respected as they grieve.
wait, yeah, and I think also no one wants to think about it, and we forget, right? So it's like here, I'll give a real life example.
Oh, well, now we have Lucy. I'll have to remember Lucy's name.
So, Lucy and I have been together since she was a baby, and she's almost 12, right? I love you.
Where is
And
Mr. Tonka? I hope he's around.
and here's the thing. When she was months old, I'm not going to think about Have I set enough money aside for her in case she gets sick? What am I going to do if she does get sick? Am I going to go through extraordinary care for her? Do I have the means to do it? And what is she to me? You know, part of the grief journey at the very end is really thinking about what does your pet mean to you? And everyone, you see it, you know, it's because we grieve because they provide unconditional love, they're our confidant, they're our best friend, they're all of these things, but we never really connect the dots to. Do I think Lucy would want extraordinary measures? Maybe I think of it when I'm sitting at the vet crying my eyes out if she's diagnosed with something. Of course, do everything you can, doctor. But I know that if I'm able to go back, so this has like 5 sections. It's I take an oath, right? We can't, this is not a legal document. You can file it away, your veterinarian. So maybe this promises it's like I'm making a commitment. So my promise to care for you, we separate it into how I want to be remembered, my comfort levels, my last wishes, my aftercare plan. Okay, so some of this is like it's not the happy thing that you talk about when you're at dog park, right? What are your
So,
aftercare plans, and what are you thinking about what you want to do with, you know, in case anything happens? But it's really important. I want to be able to really honor her. She's a great, spry 11-year-old. In the case anything were to happen, I want to remember her and that she's spry. Would I want extraordinary measures where she was hooked up, where she wouldn't have the quality of life? And I know emotionally I might because I'm so attached, but is that really the best thing for her? Even if
it's
of
having that,
all,
yeah,
yeah,
it's having that conversation, that emotional conversation when it's real time, like you said. Here it is, real time. You've gotten a diagnosis. And in the MAP plan, we also talk about if, God forbid, you predecease and you've left Lucy to me. Do I know what you would want to do? Because I might be somebody who has the wherewithal to keep her alive on all sorts of things. And would that have been something you wanted to do? So you have to transmit that not only from yourself, if you're there with the sick animal, but if you're not there with the sick animal, transmit it to somebody else. Or if you've left a lot of money to take care of the pet and you want to go to extraordinary means, you have to communicate that as well, because the person who is taking care of the pet might not be able to. That's why I always say you have to have 3 caregivers, because I might not be able to do it, but Jan might be able to do it because she's retired and she stays home and she might be able to take care of it. So always having that heir and a spare for the care of your pet is huge. And
yeah,
I love that you talk about the grief so often, because that is a forgotten piece of pet ownership. And we all don't want to think about it. I know I don't. I have a 7-year-old. You have a 12-year-old. We don't want to think about that. And having people we can go to who will understand our grief, so the whole community and everything you have set up is there to help. And now you're part of the MAP community, so we will be tapping you for that, because it really is the one of the most overlooked and important, both for the veterinarians who have to euthanize the dogs. And I'd love you to go a little bit into that, because I know there's a new huge push on helping veterinarians cope with euthanasias, and also some veterinarians who are really specializing in euthanasia, so that uh, they have created a safety net for themselves and for the owners. So tell me a little bit about what you've done with that, because I know you're involved with that.
well, from a euthanasia standpoint, is it okay if I backpedal it for a second? Because
Sure.
here's a great thing in here that talks about my comfort level and my last wishes. So you can basically cross out, you know, it's kind of like a quality of life scale. You know, I want to be able to move freely without pain. I want to be able to, it's important for me to have more good days and bad and those kind of things. It's a lot of those things are on you can find on the Gray Muzzle app or quality of life checklist. But what's not in there, it's like, um, if I have a serious chronic illness, it's okay to get a second opinion. Um, if I have a serious chronic illness, treatments can be tried to see if they would help. You know, if they don't work and there's a little hope that I will get better, I don't want to prolong things. So while your pet is still young and full of vitality, you can really think about what your moral compass are and what your values are, because they're going to change at the end of life. You're going to get emotional and you're going to be like, do everything you can, right? Or what if you're out of town and you send somebody to Rover to take care of your kitty cat, or somebody takes care of Yoda and you're not around and you don't have a list plan, and then all of a sudden something happens to Yoda and then you have to go to emergency vet. At least there's a guide that you can send along that says, here's all the things we've sat down and thought about already, right? And I think that goes forward to, I'm going to jump to euthanasia. There's a lot of times um, when you take in an emergency situation, I hate to say it, a lot of hospitals are being bought up by corporate in the last couple of years, and there's a lot of rules and protocols are follow. I hear a lot from, like, right, Suzanne Cannon from Vet Billing, that talks about there is not often the wiggle room anymore to work one-on-one with the families when they kind of not afford the care. So emergency euthanasia comes up a lot. And I think it's helpful if we have this, we can plan along with your MAP plan, then we can help the people really have some options ahead of time to know how to prepare for those, days. And I
Unexpected
think,
emergencies, unexpected sicknesses. Yeah. And the caregivers that you leave your pet with, because we all either travel, and so Rover's there, or someone else. And we don't have crystal balls. I wish I did, but I don't have crystal balls. And we can have a flat tire and we can't get home, because we talk about the 10 Ds, Claire, which is divorce, death, denial, disease, delay, disaster, dementia, and a few more, because all of these things can happen to you, and that'll impact your animal. I mean, if you have dementia, can you keep your animal with you? Will that help ground you? Absolutely. I had a dog with someone with dementia, and it really kept her grounded, but she could no more take care of that dog than fly to the moon. But the dog was able to stay because she had a support network around her that would enable the dog to stay and keep her grounded. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions for Claire? Hey, Marty, you have a question? Sure.
I do. I think this is a lovely idea. Do you sell these in quantity? Do you market them to veterinary clinics? What do you have set up for that? And there's also, I'm just going to make one comment, that there's been a bit of a trend, unfortunately, toward veterinarians who have been trained to be resistant to doing euthanasias. And so how do we address that situation in this setting?
so nice to meet you, and I'm going to try and answer all the questions. So yes, these are available in bulk. Deborah's going to provide the link, so feel free to reach out. My goal is to ultimately make this available for free at some point, to I'm hoping Chewy can sponsor us so we can get it to all the shelters and all the hospitals, and so that everybody can have a copy and plan. That's my goal. But for now, it's the cost is not prohibitive. They're available
No,
on Amazon for $5.99, and I think
right.
bulk it's like $2. Like, you know, it's not a moneymaker. It's really a labor of love for me, so that we can hand it off and people can, keep it. Two, addressing how to deal with veterinarians who might be opposed to euthanasias. I think it's probably going to be, while the topic is trending, I think it's education. I think depending on the states, like in the state of California, we cannot really refuse treatment. That's where I'm from. So if somebody comes in and say, my dog needs chemotherapy, and everybody on the team is thinking, it's not gonna, we can explain it to you. Palliative care might be more appropriate at this juncture, because it's only gonna extend your dog's life by 3 months, and we're looking at the overall well-being of the client, saying no. There's nothing they can do. On the opposite side, I can also see, for those who think that a DVM might be opposed to euthanasia, but if you have one of these, as the client, you have a right, if you can, get a second opinion. I would recommend, whoever that is, go get a second opinion. And two, it's really depending on having an advocate, and be able to prepare so that you can advocate on your pet's behalf, right? Like, again, on a case by case basis. I personally, look at the kitty. Hi. On a case by
Oh,
case,
that's Yoda.
I
That's
know. Hi, Yoda. I think on a case by case basis, we can see what we read on social media, and I think, though, most DVMs, I would say, would want the best care that's available for their patient. And I think maybe there's a lack of education or a lack of based on their own, I call it like, let's do perception checking. It's their own moral compass and their value sets here, and here's their clients. I think we have to have means to be able to have Deborah to be involved, or at a much lower scale, something like this, so that the person who's the pet parent has a chance to be able to advocate.
It
Yeah,
really
yes,
is.
thank you.
And it's very important to get the promises to my pet out to veterinarians. And also, just so you know, there's a book for the MAP plan as well that veterinarians can hand to their clients, which actually gives some outlines to do so you can care for your pet. And I always say leave the MAP plan with the vet so
Yeah.
that they can put it in your file. So there it is. It tells them who the caregivers are. It tells them what you want to do and how you want to do it. And along with the promises to my pet, it really creates that teamwork, which I'm talking about at AVMA this year, between the veterinary medicine group, which works within the four walls, and the client that brings the pet in, because that team has often not necessarily been, and I think, Claire, you touched upon this, not necessarily been as in tune or as transparent to the client, so that the client really can make a educated decision. And if they do make an educated decision, like you said, they can go get a second opinion, or the veterinarian has to honor the fact, I guess, to answer your question, Marty, the veterinarian has to honor the fact that maybe, like Claire said, they can't afford it, they don't have the time. And what do you do? I mean, that's the crossroad for veterinarians, I think, when people have a diagnosis for a pet that they can't afford to care for, or they don't have the time to care for. What do you do? I mean, that, right, Claire, that's part of the discussion when you make the checkpoints. If you check everything that says, if they get sick, I have to put them to sleep. Is there any alternative that they can provide themselves with? I know that often veterinarians will have them sign the pet over so they can fix them and then find them a new home. Is that the best outcome? I think there have been several articles written about that where people have signed their pet over to the veterinarian, and then the veterinarian found a great home for it after they fixed it, because they couldn't afford to fix the broken leg or to do the chemotherapy or whatever it is. I don't know what your experience has been, Marty. I'm sure you've had many a case like that. That there are things that people can't afford to do, and what are they to do?
Right. And so, it really does depend on the prognosis
Yep.
for that patient. But I'm going to just tell you my honest opinion. I would not give this away for free. I would make it a $2 charge. I would make it nominal. It's already very inexpensive, but if I'm going to hand out hundreds of these a year, I expect to pay for them. And I think we should pay for them, because there's no value if there's no charge for it. So I think people value something that they've paid a little bit of money for. But the veterinary community, I mean, this is a really important piece of work for the veterinary community to have access to.
Well, thank you for that, because, and I just want to say, there's a part of here that talks about your pet's personality. Um, and then you can put photos in. That's why there's extra pages where you can attach photos. If you had this in the record with your vet and you've been with your vet for 10 years, they may or may not remember your pet when they were 2. And now you're coming and say, I think at 16, he's done. And your vet might be saying, no, no, we can do this and this. But if you're able to pull this out of the files and go, but look, he really
This is what he
loves,
was,
like,
right?
he loved all these things, and now he can't no longer do any of these things. We as a family, or as myself, as the sole member caring for him, I know for a fact he wouldn't want this. Now you have evidential, it's here. We've been using this. I'm expecting this to be dog year, through the ages. And that's why, again, I'll make an ebook, but I love paper for this reason, so that, like, there's a record. It's not just a piece of paper with words of records of procedures and shots and vaccinations. Our pets are a family. They mean so much to us. And I hate to say it, but I think
Right.
with compassion fatigue and everything over the years, and it's not anybody in the veterinary community that it's watching this, I think they're burnt out, and they don't have the support to be able to fully, like, really recharge the battery so they can be empathetic to every single case that appears, you know?
But every client has their own threshold. Every client, every family has their own threshold. It's not even the same in the same family. We have, I have clients that if their dog urinates on the floor once, they're done. And I have other clients that will diaper their dog and carry them in and out the door for, for years. And so every
Yeah.
client has their own threshold. And I think that's where this really has value, is it allows them to define it when they're not in an emotional state, when they're having
Exactly.
a difficult time making decisions that are logical and reasonable, that a year from now they'll look back on and say that was a good choice, or a month from now they'll look back and say it was a good choice. And that's what's really important, is that they're always at ease with their decision. And if they've talked about it in advance with their veterinary clinic, and this opens a door for veterinarians to discuss it with their clients,
Yep.
because we have clients that come in all the time and they're like, I don't know if I'm gonna know when to do this. And I always say to them, number one, I think you'll know. You will have this look. You'll walk in the room someday, you'll wake up in the morning and you'll have a look and you'll go, this is the day. But I also tell them, and I don't know if enough veterinarians say this to their clients, we will be here to help you make that decision. I'm not here. I have 6 other doctors that will be here to hold your hand, to walk you through this, to take a phone call, to see you on Zoom, to see what your pet looks like, because I'm going to be objective in a way that you're not. So it gives the client a safety net, but this allows you even a bigger safety net, because now you've had a chance to think it through and to really consider what all your options are and what you want to do when you're in a mental place to do it. Because that's one of the problems with the emergency clinics. They go in the door, 30% of them never come back out the front door. They go out the back door, and they're in an emotional state where they're spending a lot of money, and they're with people that they don't know. They don't know if they can trust them. They don't know who they are. And it's this very difficult place for people to be. And so I think this is huge for people to be able to really be logical about their decision. And so I try to talk people through this, but most veterinarians don't. And I don't know if I think we're overrating compassion fatigue. I think veterinarians may have ethics fatigue. They may have other things, but frankly, I still feel every single euthanasia. I do 4 on some Sunday afternoons. I still feel every euthanasia, and I still walk my clients through every single one of them. There's euthanasia classes that we can take. I think those are really important.
Yes, Kathleen Cooney with CADA has like a amazing offering to veterinarians, and all practices, you know, that's
Jan,
available.
you have a question?
Yeah, thank you so much. So it wasn't really a question, but it was a comment, working both in the health and wellness field for people and pets. And that is, I've been asked a number of times, I think there's a wonderful thing about going in with an advocate, especially I think hearing really hard news, when it's something that's so close to us, our brain shuts off totally. And we don't hear, which is another thing that happens when you're sitting there and the vet comes in with all these directives and you are so emotional. It's like you don't hear 90% or probably almost 100% of what they say. And whether that advocate is somebody who can get on like a conference call or somebody who can be there. I was one of the people who walked into an emergency vet clinic one day and they were literally in the front door, and then didn't take my cat home at the time. And actually my mom's here, and getting on the phone with my mom because I was like not expecting that at all. And just having someone else who can be ears for you, I think is really, really, really helpful. And I wondered actually if you mentioned that in your book, Claire, like anything about going in with an advocate or, having someone else close to you there who.
Well, we've sort of mentioned that, Jan, in the MAP plan, because we always have 3 caregivers, and bringing them with you or having them there to be with you, or to at least makes a big difference. So you're setting up people to be your support when you're making these decisions, either because you're not there or because you're there and you need help. So it really is important. And I don't know, Claire, is there a point there? Because we have the make the plan, appoint caregivers, address the needs of your pet, and then publish it, which means bring it to your vet, bring it to your attorney, bring it to everyone so they know what you want to do with your pet. Is there a part there that sets up, because I love the idea of getting this out to veterinarians and I think all of you have my ebook from the MAP plan, right? That gives you all of this set up. So I'll have to send that off to Marty as well, because this is what we meet every week to do, is to sit down, like Claire has said, and create that history of our pets, because we have to make sure we change it every year. We have to update it every year because we change, our financial situations change, our life situation changes, the dog's life situation changes, or cat, right, Stephanie? So we're all trying to make sure that we cover the bases every year for our pet, because the way Claire would have handled Lucy's issues when she was 2 is different than how she's going to handle her issues when she's 12. So it is really important that this community create either, and both, I think, the promises to my pet, and I'll have Claire's information in the links, and also, recognizing that the MAP plan has been setting this up for you to do for 5 years. No, actually since 2013. So I love, Marty, that you think veterinarians will buy this. Both Claire and I will be sending it off to veterinarians to see if they will share it with their clients, because making a plan for your pet helps the veterinarian better care for your pet. And you can have that conversation that nobody wants to have, right, Claire?
Yes, and I completely agree and concur that we should have an advocate. However, because those appointments are brief, and sometimes in an emergency situation, I work for emergency 20, I consult for emergency 27. Like, we don't know, you're going to rush in and you don't even know if you can have a friend come with you who can advocate. So one of the things that I'm working on, it won't all fit in a book, but right, because it's in real time, one of my goals is put a resource page, promises to my pet, which is to list more of the MAP plan that Deborah has. I have in my network a plethora of technicians who are highly skilled, which I
And
think
Suzanne with a payment plan so they can pay for the care if they
yeah,
can't get
and then
credit, right?
yeah, and there's Mark Mensch, who you can open a health HSA for your veterinary care right now. And part of this will be like, I would like to introduce a calculator too. Did you know it costs this amount to care for your pet? If you're making X amount, you should put this away. If you put this much away instead of paying for, if you don't have the means for pet insurance, let's say you have 4 cats and you can't do all 4. If you put $20 away a month, this compounds and multiplies. So in the event when my Lucy gets to be age 12 and I will have a slush fund ready to go that has been sitting and accruing interest. So there's a lot from a financial and then from emotional standpoint too. It's like, where do I stand with grief? How do I look at death? Am I afraid of it? Have I lost others in my life? How am I gonna feel when Lucy goes? Where does she stand in my family legacy? What am I emotionally, putting on Lucy because she's going to listen to everything I have to say? Do I have enough people in my life, or am I depending on Lucy to be there every time I have a bad day? She's always there anyway. She's lovely. But, in the event, like, we as humans owe ourselves to not to emotionally put everything on our pets, and maybe some of us subconsciously do for whatever reasons, but I think we need to be aware of that. The more aware we are, and I know, so sorry, Deborah, we're 4 minutes over, but
That's okay.
I'll get off my soapbox. But I think that's, anybody who would love to have a conversation. I have so many things to say about it from both ends. Like, right, how can you set yourself up so it can be a successful, not that you ever want to go to the vet, so that, like, you're not putting blame on them too, and there's a lot of projection on what veterinaries can and cannot provide, and it's not fair to them to, all the awful things people say, you're only in it for the money and all this. No, it's a business. They have to run a business, and at that point they can't be your emotional container. You got to go for that elsewhere, right? And at the same time, they can't be your bank. You got to figure that out elsewhere too. So this is really about planning for the whole life cycle. We owe it to them. We do.
We really do. We owe it to ourselves, because we want to make sure that we have a plan for our pets who we love so much and who are such a big part of our lives. We owe it to our pets because you need to navigate that journey they're going to take, whether you're there to help them or not. And so if anyone has any more questions, I'd love to check in. Does anyone have anything else to ask Claire or to chat about? Kathy or Susan or Jan or Marty or Stephanie?
Just where to
Deborah?
buy, just where to buy 100 of them.
Reach out to me and I will definitely can get you the book of it. And I would be happy to. So my goal is, I'm going to leave you guys with this. My vision is to do 2 paw parties or hoof parties, or I don't know, feather
Yeah,
parties. I want to go
absolutely.
and just where people will spend their $5, $5.99 for now and sit down with me and fill it out. Then you can take it to your vet. I want to have parties in every town, and so to begin to like, let's normalize grief. Let's normalize it takes money to take care of our pets. You know, let's make sure
Does.
they live their best life ever. We all want that.
But you have to make the plan and appoint caregivers, and then you have to publish that plan because otherwise it doesn't. So I'll be happy to send you one of my books too, Marty, because it really is more of a nuts and bolts where you actually do the work. You know, you find those caregivers, because finding those caregivers is key in the event something happens to you and the vet needs to know. So until next time, guys, anybody else have anything? I'm so glad that Claire was here. I know that we are going to collaborate in a big way going forward. Marty, thank you so much for your wonderful questions and your thoughts, because always brings so much to the table. And I'm glad to know that veterinarians would like to know about the Promises to My Pet booklet and the MAAP plan, because we would make veterinarians' lives so much easier if they knew what to do about the pet, whether the person is there or not. You know, if your MAAP plan is in your vet's file, then they know what to do.
I can't promise that every vet will want to buy one of these, but I'm going to tell you, I want to buy 100 and have them available, because it's so important that clients have this thought out. So thank you very much for this. It's a book. There's one other book I said I wish I'd written, and that was written about veterinary care by a veterinarian. And she's like, I called her and said, I'd like to buy 100 of these. And she goes, what? No veterinarians ever told me that. They've always told me that they didn't like my book. I'm like, no, seriously. This is a great tool for us to have. I wish I had thought of writing it. Good for you.
Well, thank you. And I'm so glad I brought Claire. And I'm so glad I've been having this talk and have had this book since 2013, the MAAP plan. And I guess I didn't announce it as thoroughly as Claire did, but everybody here knows that making a plan, appointing caregivers, addressing the needs of your pet, and publishing it with your veterinarian and your attorney and other people who are taking care of your pets is really key. So happy to send some along so you can take a look and comment, Marty, and I know that Claire's going to send you 100 of them, so you'll have those. But it really is, and I'd love for people to comment before we hang up. It really is about being in this community that gives you the strength to sit down and make that plan, because you can buy a book and you can get a book, but if you don't have a community that enables you to really understand the need for it, and that there are other people in the same boat with you, which is why I hold these calls the first and third Wednesday of every month, because it really is. Marty's address is in the chat, Claire. It really is a hard discussion to have with yourself. It's a hard discussion to have with your caregivers, because you have to let them know what you want to do and how you want to do it. It's a hard discussion to have with your veterinarian. So if we're all together, I mean, we have brought questions here every Wednesday for the longest time, and then the first and third Wednesdays for the last 6 months, that really come to people and have issues. So I'm so glad you love this MAAP community call. Yes, Kathy, are you raising your hand?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to say two things. One, I do think there's a great deal of value in having people pay for the booklet as a client. Second thing is, I'm going to send you a poem that was sent to me by a veterinarian about what it feels like to euthanize a dog that they've known since puppyhood. And it is, I think that it's tremendously difficult to do that as the vet. You know, we're so caught up in what it feels like to us as the owner. But I think if you have a relationship with someone that's lasted for the life of the dog or cat, and now they have to put them down, that's not easy at all. So I'm going to send that to you if somewhere we could incorporate it, because I really feel for the
I'll put it up
vets
on the
too.
MAP community page. So not a problem. I would love to do that because it really is important. I know that my vet of 25 years has gone from whelping box to grave for a number of my pets. And at the risk of crying, she's always been there. She's
Yeah.
always been there. And both of us talk about all the times that the dogs did silly things. And that really is meaningful. And so I absolutely know that, you know, the one thing she always says to me, which is really heartwarming, is you've never waited too long. And I guess that's the most important piece a vet can tell you is you've never waited too long. But thank you for making me cry. I appreciate that. It's okay. Until well, let's see, it will be the 19th. I'll see you all on the 19th. I love you all. Kiss your babies for me. This is Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law Mediation, the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. Don't miss our new episode. And of course, this wonderful MAP community. I'm so grateful you were all here. Claire, thank you for being our guest speaker. I can't wait to work with you more. And until next time, kiss your babies. Take care.